Good afternoon, everybody.
Good evening.
At this time, I'd like to call the Nash County Board of Commissioners meeting for May the 22nd to order. It is customary for us to begin our meetings with a prayer by a city commissioner. During this time, you're welcome to stand and join us in the prayer. You're welcome to use this time for your own prayer if you like, or you're certainly welcome to use it for a moment of silence. And after the prayer, we'll have a pledge of allegiance led by Commissioner Outlaw. And at this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Sue Leggett for the invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we ask for your presence and blessing over this meeting today as we conduct the business of Nash County. Lord, we ask that you guard our hearts and minds, and may everything that is done here today be pleasing in your sight. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. That gets us to item number 4 on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes for our regular scheduled meeting, which was on May the 1st. At this time, I'd entertain a motion for approval or any additions or any corrections to those minutes.
Move approval.
Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Belfield. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Minutes stand approved, Madam Clerk. We always thank you for the job you do. Number 5, I will move to item number 5, which is a great time of the year for the commissioners each year, and it's the Citizens Academy recognition. And I'll call on Jonathan Edwards to make this presentation. Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I have to remember what time of day it is.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Commissioners. On Tuesday, May 16th, we completed the 2023 Citizens Academy. We had 19 participants graduate from our 8-week program that studies the workings of Nash County government. Our graduates met county department leaders and toured county facilities, all while having fun, meeting new people, and learning a little thing along the way. I'm going to go ahead and read a list of our graduates this year, and some of them have been able to attend today. Janet Arnold, Jane Barnes, Greg Bunn, Diana Clark, Robert Cordell, Angie Dean, Mary Edwards, Matt Edwards, Vicki Hill, Samuel Johnson, Corliss Newkirk, Michael Page, Diane Porter, Joanna Powell, Catherine Robertson, Morris Robertson, Sandra Russ, Lisa Whitley, and Nico Williams. And returning again to volunteer with us is Miss Hattie Cooper, who has been here for a number of years, and we appreciate her coming back. Now I have a video to play that will just show you some of the experiences that our Citizens Academy had this year. I do want to thank about half of our graduates who were able to attend today. If y'all would please stand up and we give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Mr. Belfield?
When you gonna recognize them with certificates? You do that Monday?
We actually did that at their last class.
Oh, you did
We
already? done?
did, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank each one of y'all.
Yeah.
As
Great
Mr.
job.
Cooper, we certainly want to give a thanks for you. I know you've been doing this a long time and greatly appreciate what you do for us here. If you would, if you passed the word, if you enjoyed it and learned something, if you passed the word, we would certainly like to see us continue this each year. And I hope each one of you did learn more about the operation of Nash County. Thank y'all for being here.
Yeah. What's,
Mr.
Mr.
Belfield?
Chairman, what's the possibility of maybe having 2 sessions, one in the fall? I'm not saying start it now, but something we ought to think about.
I'm going to let you direct that question to the manager.
We
if
are
you will, sir.
limited with the number you can put in there at one time, was it about 20 or 25?
We are, and I don't think that we had any enrollees that we couldn't accommodate, is that correct?
No, we in fact had several more people sign up that weren't able to attend when the session started. Yeah, so we had room for more.
I think we ought to look at maybe having 2 sessions a year.
I'll let you talk to the manager about that.
I have,
She will be the one that needs to make that
I
decision.
would be glad to, because I have a lot of people ask questions about what y'all do over there. Spend our money, and
Understood, sir.
and I want them to know what services are offered.
Right.
And I believe if they come and see and hear these in these sessions and get the information, they have a different view of what we're doing in Nash County as a Board of Commissioners, along with the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, again. We'll move on to item number 6, which is, each month in our second meeting, we have a presentation generally by an outside group, and not really an outside group, but one not located directly or work for the county itself. And then we generally would have an inside group. I think Commissioner Outlaw has planned this month to do an outside group, and at this time, and let the budget itself be the inside group, if I understand it right. But I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Outlaw, let him do this introduction.
Well, actually, we got a pretty full day because we got an outside and inside and budget, I believe, but our outside presentation is no stranger to the Nash County Board of Commissioners, Dr. Lee Isley. He's going to give us an update on UNC Health Nash, and I will leave it up to him to introduce those people that are attending with him today.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Outlaw.
for being here, Dr. Isley.
Yes, sir, always good to be with you. Thank you for having us. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with Dorsey DeBias, who is with me, and Sean Hartley, who is our CFO. And so you'll hear from each of them also, break it up a little bit, and you won't have to endure me the entire time. So certainly throughout this, if there are questions, please let me know. So and although Dorsey gave me some cards and it says not to brag, I'm going to brag a little bit. And that since the last time, and we've got some slides to show the progress that we've made over the 5 years, and I know that I've spoke with many of you, and we recognize the work that's been going on at the hospital. But UNC, the system, recently recognized Nash and asked us to present about our financial turnaround to other hospitals inside the system at a gathering. And given our significant turnaround, they've asked us to share with our affiliate hospitals a little bit about our progress and our journey over the last 5 years. As you can see from the slide above, I don't need to remind you of where we started 5 years ago. And if you'll allow me, I'll be really quick with this one because this is nothing good on this slide, right? This is where we were 5 years ago. And you guys know it, I know you know, because you've shared that with me and you were getting phone calls from your constituents, as you should. And so you asked me to put to work and try to turn that around, and here's where we are today. So we're at a positive operating margin. We're meeting and exceeding our budget. Sean will talk to you a little bit about that and be able to answer questions. We've significantly improved our patient satisfaction scores. We have received top accolades from public reporting agencies like the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, which you'll hear us call CMS, but that is who governs our payments for Medicare and Medicaid programs and also make sure that we're meeting conditions of participation. The Leapfrog Group and then other publications across the state. So we've made a lot of improvement. We also believe that our trust with our community is coming back. Our surgical volumes are up, our market share is up, our inpatient volumes are increasing, and so patients and the community are coming back to our hospital. I want to thank our board, who certainly set out the vision and continuously have been holding us accountable. Mr. Bill Lanus, our chair, is here with us today, and certainly want to thank him for his vision of continuing to make us be mindful of our mission to move forward and care for the individuals in our community. Certainly our staff and medical staff who are engaged and focused and allowing us to reach these milestones, our community, for allowing us to have the opportunity to care for them and serve them. And then for those individuals who were involved in our strategic planning process, who provides us with feedback so that we can continue to improve and plan for the future. So I'm going to let Dorsey go through and update you on the strategic plan that will be kicking off in July of this year.
Thank you. And I want to thank the commissioners in the room and several of the staff from the county that participated in our strategic planning feedback process over the last year. You all will probably recall we've come to you annually with updates on our prior strategic plan. That process was done about 5 years ago and has led us through the last 5 years of improvements that Dr. Isley just spoke about. And so in this final year of that plan, we've been building towards the next plan, which begins implementation July 1st, which is the start of our fiscal year like you all's. This slide just gives you an overview of the process that the last year has undertaken. We've had involvement from a number of community stakeholders. We involved faith leaders, of course, municipal staff from our various municipalities that are represented in our service area, a lot of medical staff representation, which was excellent. And then our guiding partner was Ascendient, which is a third-party expert that specializes in hospital strategic planning and is based in North Carolina, which I think is really important. They understand rural medicine and aren't just kind of cookie cutter watching what a big hospital like Rex might do, right? That's going to be a very different approach to what we've got to do in Nash County. And so we had a great partner guiding us through that process. This is also a very busy slide that I'm not going to speak through, but the reason I included this is to show you the summary statement at the top is we call it the strategic vision statement. It's not something we're going to plaster on the front door of the hospital, but it's meant to summarize what this strategic plan will accomplish, and that will be to position ourselves as a regional leader distinguished by ease of access, exceptional customer service, a variety of service offerings, and workforce and community engagement. And the reason that I included the metrics over on the far right is I want to emphasize that every year when we set our organizational goals, they are set with year-over-year incremental progress that drives towards these strategic plan goals. These are what our board tells us are the most important for us to focus on achieving over the next 5 years. And therefore, when we set organizational goals, that is where the organization focuses our resources, our time and attention, we are laser focused on moving those things forward each year. I'll dive into just a couple topics. within the strategic plan and show you what is of most urgency within the first year of the strategic plan. So that first pillar or strategic imperative, workforce engagement, I'm sure that's no surprise to any industry in America or the world right now that we have to prioritize recruitment and retention. And so we want to be an employer of choice in this region, and we aim to do that through workforce engagement, investing in recruitment and retention, as well as career development, making sure that we have staff that we are developing, whether their future is at Nash the hospital or somewhere else in our community, working with each of those in an individualized plan to make sure that they are seeing their growth opportunities. Within safety, quality, and service culture, we've done a really great job creating the foundation for that over the last 5 years, but what we've got to focus on now is further instilling that in all levels of the organization. So getting all the way down to our frontline leaders and our frontline staff who are actually delivering the care. I think that any of you who've been to the hospital in the last few years can recognize that there's been a tremendous improvement over prior experiences, but there's still a great deal of opportunity for improvement. And so distilling those organizational values, making sure we're holding all of our staff accountable for those values and displaying those behaviors in every interaction that they have with our patients and our patients' families. One way that we've been doing that is through dyads and triads. That's one thing that we've accomplished in this last strategic plan that we're going to further refine in this next one. That's where a physician partners with a nurse or administrative leader in each unit or service line to really drill down on what areas within their service line or unit can drive those organizational goals and those bigger picture items that we just showed on the last slide. In specialty services, I'm going to emphasize primary care. How many of you have noticed that there's a really hard time getting into a primary care physician these days? There is a significant need in our community. Right now, there is a deficit of 10 FTEs, so we have a need for 10 primary care physicians in our community. That number almost triples over the next 7 years, and so with the aging provider base that we have in our community, we have got to really aggressively recruit for primary care physicians in our market. And we have a primary care development committee that is chaired by Dr. David Browder of Boyce Willis, and that committee is comprised of all of the clinics in our area, so that we are working together as a medical community to recruit and retain the primary care providers that our community so desperately needs right now. And we've made significant improvement in the last few years. I'll show you in a minute some of the providers that we've recruited, but have a lot of work to do, and it is going to be a tall task. That is an area that currently in the nation, there are 3 times as many postings for primary care providers as there is supply. So we're having to get really creative on that. But that will allow us to address population health more aggressively, reduce unnecessary emergency department utilization, and really move us forward in the ways that we need to in a community like ours. And then beyond that, when patients do need something beyond what we can provide at our hospital, we want to have seamless coordination with UNC or another tertiary level of care. It doesn't have to be UNC, but obviously we want to make the most use of our partnership. And a great example of that would be cancer or heart, where you may need a higher level of care, maybe a specific surgery that we don't have a highly specified surgeon here for that. We would have them coordinate with a higher level of care, but then they can receive their ongoing treatments back here where they're home and can get to their appointments more easily. And then an ease of access there at the bottom. We already receive a great number of patients from beyond just Nash County. We have, in fact, really only 50% of our patients are from Nash County. We have a great deal that come from Halifax, Edgecombe, Wilson, and then beyond, obviously due to our proximity and our location on I-95 and US 64. So making sure that we are positioning ourselves to capture those patients, to serve our greater region, and to really build out our key service lines to take care of not only our community, but to remain a sustainable hospital for many years to come. I may need you to advance it for me, Stacy. And then this is just a snapshot of 19, I just counted, providers that have been, these are specialists that have been recruited to our community over the last 4 years. There are obviously way more providers that have joined our medical staff in the last few years, but these are the ones that either we employ directly or through our partnership with UNC Physicians Network or the UNC School of Medicine, which is our cardiology practice. We assist many other community practices with their recruitment. So we work with OIC, we work with Carolina Regional Orthopedics. There are many other practices, Boyce Willis, that we partner with to recruit for. Those folks are not on this slide. These are just the ones that we either employ directly or through a managed partner within the UNC system. And I'm going to turn it back, or now to Sean for a financial update.
All of those providers at the hospital, and they're not in no way in private practice?
These are not in private practice. These would be folks that are in our clinics. They don't practice in the hospital. They practice out in the clinics. So orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Clay Nelson, he's in the orthopedic practice. He does surgery in the hospital, but his practice is out in the community. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Hey,
So I have a brief update for you on finances, really just 2 slides, the first one being most poignant. Stacy asked us for a very concise summary of what our financial results were compared from 2021 to 2022 fiscal year. We are audited, that is publicly available, so I'm always glad to share that with you. It's very robust, about 100 pages, light reading. So if you ever want a copy of that, just reach out to me, I'm glad to provide it. So the first line would be directly from the operations at the hospital. So what you can see is in 2021, we made around $6 million from operations, and then that slid down to about 3.6 in 2022. What's interesting about that is that was actually during growth. So we actually saw quite a bit of volume growth in 2022. The offset is driven by labor costs. If you've been paying any attention, you're aware that wageflation is very serious in our country right now, and more specifically, it is very acute in healthcare. We have a major deficit of clinicians that are at the bedside, at the elbow, nurses, nursing assistants, nurse practitioners, physicians. That is driving up the cost of that labor. So despite volume growth, which we're proud of, we unfortunately saw a reduction in our operations. We budgeted for it, we planned for it, we made sure the board knew it was likely to happen. I mean, it was on the tea leaves. There's no doubt in my mind what was going to occur. It's super challenging. Many of our sister hospitals in the state and in the country are seeing the same thing, and unfortunately, they're running negative operating. And so my next slide, we're going to talk about that in a second, but then we have 3 other items that come into the calculation that is, we have an arrangement with you all where basically when it's all summarized and calculated, we share 4.5% of the net change in assets with the county. So investment income, those are unrealized, so it's just like the statement you get on your own personal investments. We haven't sold the investments or anything like that. It's paper wealth, right? So we get a statement and it goes, in 2022, it goes, oh, you have $35 million more than you had the year before. Then in 2022, it says you have $27 million less, but we didn't sell assets or recognize any losses there. We received CARES funding in both 2021 and 2022, so that was under the Trump administration. That was how they tried to help the hospitals survive COVID and the pandemic. They provided access to funds that were extremely helpful, and so that was about $16 million in 21, and then that was down to $7 million in 22, and then just an all other line. So in 2021, we netted about $53 million positive, obviously materially driven by the markets, CARES fundings, and things like that. And then for 2022, the difference is going to be the negative investment income. So that swing is so material, it ends up providing a negative decrease in that position, which multiplying a negative, you get a negative, right? So that resulted in a $0 payment to the county, whereas the year before we had a $2 million payment. All right, I do that quickly. I'm always too fast, so I'm glad to pause before the next slide and answer any questions. Okay, next slide, please. So the other thing that we've been really transparent with our board about is how, Nash is kind of by itself in regards to we're the only hospital in this community, at least in Nash County, and how are we comparing as to the industry? So that can always be really challenging because I don't have insights into hospitals that I don't work at, right? But with UNC, we are able to get some insights into their financial data. So these are 7 hospitals other than Nash in the UNC system, excluding the medical center. That's an academic medical center. The way they're funded is a little different, so it's not really apples to apples. So this is for our board just so they can have a taste of is Nash doing a quote-unquote good job? Are we pushing ourselves hard enough? And what you can see here is in terms of margins, we're actually first place. So we're pretty proud of that. We are rural America. You know, we have plenty of people who don't have insurance or have high deductible plans and aren't able to meet their bills, and we have to work with them on payment plans and things like that. We are 70-ish% funded through Medicare and Medicaid, you know, whereas a more urban community would be 30-40% funded from the government. So really, our ability to navigate this and be successful financially is something that we're extremely proud of. And I'm glad to be able to stand here in front of you today and talk to you about it, because I am proud of the team there and the work they've done. So that helps our board better understand, you know, what is the whole market doing and how does healthcare look right now, and it's a little scary. Okay, those are my 2 slides. So that is my extremely brief update on finances, but again, I'm here for you, so any questions I can answer for you right now, or if you think of them later, I'm available to whenever you'd like.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to give you an update. I know that we have worked with you on the master facility plan, and so we'll just do a brief reminder and then a status of where we currently are. For those who are familiar with the hospital, this is the star or the tower layout of the floors and the typical floor that you can see. And so, as many of you know, upon completion of our last strategic plan, the board asked us to conduct a full assessment of our facilities. And so we call that the master facility plan. It was developed by a third-party consultant who specializes in this work and in partnership with the board. And it allowed us to prioritize and assign stages to the amount of work that the physical structure needed us to pay attention to in order to be able to continue to provide quality care for our patients and meet our community's expectations for their facility. We actually, a lot of the things that we've talked about in the past were like roofs and basic conditions to make sure that we were keeping the AC and the HVAC systems, the electrical systems up to code, and we're working in good order. So this is a picture of a standard room layout. The other thing that we discovered, which doesn't come as a huge surprise, is that in our bed tower, our rooms were about 100 square feet less than what is industry standard. More importantly, if you've been in one of our rooms, you know that you can only access the patient from one side of the bed. So there's a patient safety issue there. There's a staff safety issue there for that can lead to injury. And actually when we're examining a patient in one of the inpatient rooms, it is very difficult for the physician, the nurse, the patient, and if there's any family in that room, we generally have to ask that family to step out while we're doing a physical exam of the patient. So certainly we need to do better with that. One of the things that I know that we've talked about is that we also, no showers are in the rooms, right? So they all have bathrooms, but they do not have showers. And so that is the standard for our patients. And if you're with us for several days, you should expect to be able to have access to a shower. And so that's very difficult at this point. Next slide. So a little bit about what we envision is the bathrooms, the appropriate size, the ability to have loved ones stay with you during your care and be able to help support you in your recovery. So as we were with you last time, we saw a sharp rise in material and labor costs throughout 2021, and our board asked us to pause on the construction project of the tower while we evaluated the market, and what we hoped we saw was a cooling off of interest rates, of construction, inflation, and supply chain issues. So we've been keeping an eye, reporting back on a regular basis to the organization and to the board. And what we have seen is, and have realized is that we're not going to return to the pre-pandemic levels. We're seeing a leveling off of construction prices, not a lowering of those construction prices. And we actually are just seeing the rate of inflation cooling slightly over what we saw during the pandemic. And so we're actually not even seeing a leveling of the prices. We're just seeing a slowing of the inflation of those prices. Through our access to capital and through some programs that we have available to us, the price of cash is not increasing for us, and we're able to access that cash at very amenable market rates. So what we discovered through working with our consultants and architects, engineers, is that waiting on this project adds about $7 to $10 million a year every year we decide to wait for the project. And that's simple inflationary cost of doing construction. So the board asked us to come back and give a recommendation. We recommended to the board, which voted unanimously at the May board meeting, to resume the tower project, specifically as you see through this timeline, to start meeting and specifically to proceed with contract negotiations with our architects, engineers, and our construction managers. And so we have started doing that. We'll come back in the first quarter of fiscal year '24 with those recommendations and pricing. And then if the board approves, then we will go forward over the next 10 to 12 months with the architectural design and planning of the structure. So lots of opportunities for our board to what we call off-ramps. So if financial situations change or we find the market has changed significantly, there are about 3 different stages through this next 12 to 18 months for us to be able to take what we call an off-ramp, which is really a pause on the project. It also allows us plenty of time as partners to continue to have our conversations and make sure we're aligned on what the future of Nash is. While we're doing this, we are looking at what the possible repurposing of the old tower would be. The new structure, as we discussed, would be in front of the current tower, where as you come into the front entrance, and would be about 140 beds for the facility. We're licensed for 272 beds at the hospital. The whole system with Brian Aldridge and with Coastal Plain is a little over 300. So we have the bed capacity, and we will be looking to repurpose the existing tower. Wanted to provide you this update as we continue to move forward with these changes, be able to answer any questions for you. The one item that I did fail is that we are evaluated every year by CMS, again, that's Medicare and Medicaid, and they make a star rating system. You may have noticed that we were 3 stars. We were 1 star 5 years ago, and we have been working towards, actually with this strategic plan that we're finishing up, to be a 3-star. But as we move forward, 5 stars is the most, and the majority of hospitals that are providing excellent care across the country are at 4 or 5 stars. We just received some information that I think you'll be very pleased with. We won't be able to release that until the July timeframe because of CMS guidelines. But I did want you to know that good news will be coming out this summer that I think you'll be very pleased with on how we rate among hospitals as CMS rates us across the country. Be glad to answer any questions.
Questions from commissioners? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Outlaw, if you'll take number 7 at the appropriate time, sir.
We're going to have a presentation today from Cole Strickland, Soil and Water Director on the storm debris removal program. So, Cole, if you come forward and make that presentation. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, Nash County Board of Commissioners, appreciate these few moments to present on our stream debris mission. First, however, I'd like to begin by giving some staffing updates, if you will bear with me here. First, I'd like to introduce our new admin support specialist, Heather Bell. Heather began in our department September 6, 2022, and she's been a great addition to our soil and water team. We look forward to continuing our work with Heather in her new role, and Heather does reside in Franklin County, so let's not hold that against her. Secondly, I'd like to introduce our newest natural resource conservationist, Stephen Ward. Stephen is very new to our organization. He began February 1st of 2023. His passion for conserving our natural resources is unmatched. He holds a fisheries, wildlife, and conservation biology degree from NC State, and he grew up in Gold Hill, North Carolina. So we are getting him acclimated to Nash County. Here is a complete list of our staff and our Soil and Water Board. Again, Cole Strickland, Director, Edward Long, Natural Resource Conservationist, Ken Morris, Natural Resource Conservationist, and Heather and Stephen, like I mentioned. I would like to special mention Jessica Dunn. Jessica is our Natural Resource Conservation Service partner. She is a federal employee, but she is boots on the ground to help us implement the federal programs that are out there. So we appreciate her service to our citizens and our cooperators. Then, of course, our Nash County Soil and Water Board, Mr. Bobby Joe Fisher, Chairman, Mr. Robert Glover, Vice Chairman, Parker Phillips, our Treasurer, Sean Lucas, our member, and our newest member, Mr. Brent Manning. So now let's dive into our stream debris project. We were able to solicit some funds from Golden Leaf Foundation. We were able to go 44,000 feet. This work was done from the Reservoir Dam on the Tar River to the Rocky Mountain Mills Dam. This was a cost of $99,255. Here's a visual of where that work was completed. Next, our next initiative would be Hurricane Matthew funds. We were able to solicit a good amount of funding from them. In that program, we were able to go 279,650 feet, and that would be a cost of 640,347 feet. This was a big project in many areas, but major work was done on Stony Creek from Highway 64 to Tar River, which was 90,000 feet of the project. Tar River itself, from the Rocky Mountain Mills to the county line, 6,000 feet. Various areas of Turkey Creek, 13,650 feet, and then all of Fishing Creek, 170,000 feet. And here's a visual of all of that solicitation from Hurricane Matthew monies. Would like to provide some pictures from before the project started. As you can see, there was quite a bit of debris in this. This was actually in Swift Creek. And then what the work was completed and how it looked after. As with any stream debris initiative, there's always beaver management to take in place. We were able to remove 81 beavers and 2 beaver dams along Turkey Creek, and this was $18,196. So for a review, we were able to go 323,650 feet, or just over 61 miles, of stream debris was able to be cleared. Again, we removed 81 beavers, 2 beaver dams, and for a total cost of $757,798.39. And this does include the beaver management in that figure. So our mission continues. We are currently in the Stream Flow Rehabilitation Assistance Program, which we refer to as STRAP, and that was created by the North Carolina General Assembly for the 2021-22 fiscal year. STRAP was designed to protect and restore all of North Carolina's drainage infrastructure and waterways. This program was granted approval for an allocation of $38 million. Nash County was fortunate enough to be allocated $254,569. And I'll just mention that even though the program had $38 million allocated, there were over $300 million of requests from grantees. We are currently involved in one active contract in the STRAP program. This focus area is along Swift Creek, stretching 15,200 foot downstream of Hillotson Road to North Carolina Highway 48. This contract does have a value of $174,375, and the deadline to use the remaining $80,194 is December 31st, 2024. We are prioritizing areas currently to be able to use that funding, so we will use that funding here soon. In that project, we will be able to cover 46,500 feet. And there's a visual of where we'll be working. And that work has begun and is active right now. You may ask why. What's our purpose? Well, we want to prevent flooding, protect our drainage infrastructure for our current citizens of Nash County, but for our future generations. That concludes my presentation. At this time, I'll answer any questions.
Mr. Biffield?
Yes. Beaver management. I know basically what I've seen is when beavers dam up streams, we correct that. And how are we managing the beavers themselves so they won't be damming up our streams? Is it something that you can't do because of, if you do it, animal issues would come forth and say we shouldn't be limiting beavers?
But there are laws to removing beavers and not removing beavers. We work with various resources and other partners to be able to mitigate our beaver nuisance. I'm not sure that there are many preventative ways to correct beaver coming on your property or into a stream.
Yeah, because I've seen areas where we clean up where they dam up streams, and then they go right back there and do it again, and then you got to open
Right
up
back
again.
where we were.
Right, that's right. And I was just wondering, is there some way we can manage beavers, not kill them, but maybe something that we could come up with that will cause them to not want to go and cut and gnaw down the trees and then take them, and you see them, and I have watched them do it, and go and just dam up the stream so the water can't run, get there and it backs up. And I often wonder, but I haven't said nothing much about it other than just wondering myself, that is it something that could repel them from doing that? And I haven't heard of anything.
That's some information.
It's just a recycle over and over and over, and that's costly.
Yes, sir. I can follow up on that and get back with you if that's okay.
Okay.
Other questions, comments,
Yeah. Excuse me.
Commissioner?
Well, I had a constituent that called me about he had a beaver problem. Anyway, he was referred to Jordan Armayer, and well, his problem is flooding on his property, but the beaver's not on his property. So anyway, he's been referred to Mr. Armayer, and well, he said it'll be like July by the time they can get around to possibly checking it out. So anyway, just checking to make sure that is the right process that he should be going through.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jordan Armel is our resource for beavers, and they have a allotted allocation for our area for funding and resources. And as we get near the end of the fiscal year, his visits, get used up more frequently. Hopefully in July, his visits will be able to be re-upped, and we'll be able to get out there and help your constituent.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Cole, just a couple of questions. Has most of this work still been done by one contractor?
One contractor did a majority of the Hurricane Matthew funds. I can't speak to the Golden Leaf funds. I do know we have a new contractor on our STRAP fund program that we're currently working on now.
Okay, all right. And have you been at this long enough to answer a question? What do you think the time limit, or how often are we going to have to repeat this process outside of hurricanes or storm damage? Because we went so many years without doing anything, but yet we've been extremely active over the last 6-7 years. But what's the longevity once you get them clean with the natural causes?
I do believe that there will be some maintenance periods as we go forward. Can't really put a time label on a question like that, but I do believe there will be some maintenance periods as we go along. I don't think we can get into any specifics right now, but I do believe there'll be some reoccurring types of maintenance periods on these streams.
But it's obvious the funding comes after hurricanes more than any other time.
Yes, sir.
Like looking at what you've been doing.
I do know that they're working on getting the STRAP program some recurring funds. That is not a done deal yet, but they are looking at that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, there's no other questions for Commissioner. We certainly appreciate it. Interesting.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now be on item number 8, which is Nash County Detention Facility addition and renovations, and I will turn it over to Mr. Boone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Item I have for you today is change order 7 on the Nash County Facility Addition and Renovation project. You may recall presented change order 6 to the board back in early April. This particular change order encompasses 5 different items, the most significant of which includes the extension of electrical service to the rear gate, the rear of the facility, some enhancements to the finished surface in the showers to assist the sheriff's department with maintenance in those areas, and also extension of a retaining wall at the loading bay in the back of the facility. The total cost of change order 7 is $43,527.17. If approved, that will bring total approved change orders to date to $716,221, a little change based on the original award recommendation of $17,635,435. That amounts to about 4.1% and would bring the total contract amount to $18,351,656.05. With that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, Mr. Boone?
Mr. Chairman, have these changes already taken place?
Some have, in order to keep the project moving, they have.
Other questions?
Anything that we could hold off on, we did.
Okay.
So say work in the shower, for example. We knew that work needed to be done. That's one of the issues that we commonly hear from the state during their inspection, so we want to make sure we did everything we could to make those showers as serviceable as we could and reduce the amount of maintenance required by the sheriff's office and by the inmate workers. So that's an example of one of the items.
Okay, I understand. I was looking at the dates, and that's why I asked that question. It appeared to me that some of it has already taken place before approval, so.
Well, so you'll see, the dates you see on the quotes are the quotes. But again, in the case of the shower, that work is not being completed, but it is underway.
I understand. That's understandable. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Boone, 4.1% increase on a project for us is, averaging more than we normally see. I do understand the type of project we got here. What is concerning a little bit is, if I'm following the project correctly, most of what we have done, or a large portion of it, is the new portion, and we still have quite a bit of renovation part to go, which is normally where you encounter cost that couldn't be anticipated by anyone. What is your gut feel today? Are we through a period of time when we could have change orders, or are we entering a period of time when we may have increased amounts in change orders because of the tight work we're doing there? And of course, I'm generally concerned about the overall cost of this thing. We started out about $3 million more than we thought it would be up front, and now we're growing it. And I don't mean prior to your time, what we have budgeted for jail renovation versus what bids actually were. I don't mean what's happened on your clock, but just overall, how you feel about that this day?
Well, I will say I never look forward to having to come before the Board of Commissioners and ask you for more money. So I've been here 7 times, and 7 times that I'd rather have not come. The nature of the work and the renovations were anticipated and addressed on the front end, absolutely. It would have been a question of time. We could have spent more time on that. And some of the things I've been a bit disappointed in, but in saying that, I also recognize that due to the complexity of the project, there are some things that until you, and being in industry, I know you know, that until you get into the project, you don't know. I use this quote quite a bit, and I probably use it incorrectly, that Donald Rumsfeld once said there are known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. And there were some unknown unknowns in the project, and we really were not going to be able to address those until we started. But things like gate power, that should have been in the design to start with. We knew we were putting a gate, knew it was going to require power. It was a miss. But also, given the scale and the complexity of the project, you expect there's going to be a few oops along the way. But to your question, do I expect that the change orders are going to accelerate? No, I don't think they're going to accelerate. We have, certainly as part of Phase 1, we've entered into the renovation of the old north-south block. And some of the issues that we are currently wrestling with there have been addressed in change orders, and will propagate into the next section of the project, the renovation, where we're developing the booking and intake area and some of the holding cells. Will there be additional change orders? Yes. And certainly we're going to do the best we can to manage that. But I'm not aware, and I really do not anticipate any issues that we haven't kind of already had to wrestle with because of the work we've done with the new construction and with the portion of the renovation for the training room, for the staff locker room, for the female segregation area. But there will be some additional change orders. There's already a couple in the works related to the rear parking lot. And I'm working with Daniels and Appian Consulting Engineers and Mosley Architects to try to minimize that as much as we can. But we also want to make sure when we're done, at least I want to make sure when we're done with the investment that we're making, that we've got something that's going to last us a while. I don't want to take any shortcuts. As much as I hate to come up here and ask the 7 of you for more money for this project, I also want to make sure that we do it right.
Thank you for that. I know we try our best as we're doing these jobs to also look for cost savings in the design, which we have seen some here. Will we continue to do that to try to mitigate what the bottom dollar will be at the end to offset future change orders, or have we found all of our savings in Phase 1, you think?
I would never tell you we've found everything, and I certainly hope there's more savings to be had. I will say one of the benefits we have on this project, even though it is a complex project, we're dealing with a contractor that we have worked with before, knows what the county's expectations are, knows what to expect from the county, know what the county's looking for. We're dealing with an architect that we've dealt with before. So they're known commodities. I think we work well together. But I'm not going to tell you there's not more savings to be had. and we're certainly going to look for every available opportunity that we can. But we also recognize that there may be some things that will require us to make some additional investment, so we make sure we got a quality product when we're done.
Thank you for your answers. Any other questions prior to taking action on this? Pleasure of the board.
Move for approval.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Thank you and your staff for what you do over there. Item number 9 is the fiscal year 2024 recommended budget presentation, and I'll call on our manager, Stacy Satzler, this time to make this presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
No.
I am excited to share the recommended budget with you for the upcoming fiscal year. I do want to take a moment to thank each of you for your time and feedback that we've spent on this recommended budget. But just know that after it is presented today, there is still time to make any adjustments that you would like to see. So I continue to look forward to hear from you and get your comments and feedback. So I will present today this fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. I'm sorry, I will backtrack 2 seconds here. The book that you have in front of you, if you want to follow along with the narrative, you have that in the front of your book. You're welcome to follow along with the narrative. I've also provided you with my slides. There's only a couple of minor changes in my slides. I needed to finalize the budget message before the slide deck, but you have everything with you to take today. So this budget is presented to you in accordance with the North Carolina Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. The proposed budget is presented subject to a public hearing and the Nash County Board of Commissioners revisions and approval. This budget, as presented, is balanced. The budget provides the resources needed to ensure the delivery of governmental services in a fiscally responsible manner. The budget is one of the best tools to demonstrate the board's priorities for the future of Nash County. This proposed budget is a continuation of the financially sound and fiscally conservative practices established and embraced by Nash County government. This message will focus primarily on the county's general fund, which is the largest fund and includes all governmental activities supported by tax revenue. The first item that we're going to talk about is revenues. The overall FY24 proposed budget, which includes the general fund, enterprise funds, special revenue funds, and internal services funds, is $134,587,602 compared to the current fiscal year of FY23 overall approved budget of $122,839,484. The general fund is proposed to be $117,778,300, which is $10,503,300 more, or 9.79% greater than the current fiscal year original budget. This budget is recommended and is based on a 67-cent tax rate, and that is the same as the current year. This will represent the 15th consecutive year that the tax rate has remained at 67 cents. For property tax collections, ad valorem tax revenue reflects an increase of 4.74% over the current year budget due to an increase in tax base. The increase is due primarily to new construction, increases in personal property, and registered motor vehicles. According to the FY 2021-2022 Nash County audit, the overall tax collection rate in Nash County was 99.09%. The collection rate for real and personal property and public utilities was 98.95%, and the collection rate for motor vehicles was 100%. For purposes of estimating next year's property tax revenues, this proposed budget assumes a conservative collection rate of 97.5% for real and personal property and for motor vehicles. The tax office is committed to maintaining Nash County's high tax collection rate during the future years and will continue to concentrate on the collection of prior year's delinquent taxes. Due to increased collections in the current and prior year's tax, the tax office has continued to reduce the county 10-year outstanding delinquent tax balance. Now we're going to address estimated tax base and rate. The Nash County total estimated valuation for FY24 is $8,527,000,000. At 100% collection, each penny of the tax rate assessed will produce $852,700. The total estimated tax base from the 2022 tax year is 4.74. At the proposed rate of 67 cents per 100 valuation, using a conservative tax collection rate of 97.5%, the fiscal year 24 general fund budget anticipates the collection of $56,327,628 in ad valorem tax revenues, which estimates for the collection of prior year delinquent taxes, interest, and other miscellaneous charges. And I don't have in your notes here, but that does represent 47.8% of the recommended budget. For sales and other tax, sales tax collections are budgeted at $24,082,780. This estimated collection is based on the current year projected collections. Sales tax collections are the second largest funding source for the general fund. Other taxes total $624,500. Sales tax and other tax represents 21% of the recommended budget. For intergovernmental revenues, intergovernmental revenues include revenues from other governments, local, state, and federal, with projected funding for FY24 at $18,990,384. This includes funding for the Department of Social Services, the Health Department, and various other state and local restricted funding. Total projected intergovernmental revenue represents 16.1% of the general fund budget. Other operating revenues. Our projected funding for other operating revenues include permits and fees, sales and services, investment earnings, rentals, and other miscellaneous revenues, which total $7,990,419, or 6.8% of the general fund budget. For fund balance and reserve appropriations, in fiscal year '24, the budget proposes $8,550,000, or 7.3% of the general fund budget in fund balance appropriations as a balancing factor. Nash County budgets an amount we believe can be offset by a combination of greater than expected revenues and expenditures less than appropriated. Restricted health revenues are budgeted at $1,212,589, and together fund balance and reserve appropriations represent 8.3% of the general fund budget. Fee changes. The recommended budget contains some necessary fee adjustments to ensure cost equity in several of our service areas. This budget includes increases for emergency medical services, treatment and transport, and recreation has increases in their registration fees for athletic programs and for field rentals. The next slide is revenues by function, and you can see that property taxes are about half of the budget, which is how we normally track, and there are your other revenue streams to make up the general fund budget. Next, we will talk about expenditures. The following portion of the budget message highlights particular funding items which have significant impact on the proposed budget. First, salaries. The recommended budget includes a 5% cost of living adjustment for all full-time employees and permanent part-time positions. In an effort to avoid creating compression in our pay structure, we will apply a 3% increase to our salary table for the recruitment of new staff. It is clear from our budget discussions that Nash County Commissioners understand the tough economic environment our employees face. I have heard your commitment to take care of our staff and to recruit skilled talent to join our workforce. Although an obligation cannot be made for the future, I recognize the board's desire to make every effort to put a 5% cost of living adjustment in next year's budget as well. Our employees should know that they are valued and that the board wishes to provide what they can to offer competitive salaries and improve quality of life. Next, we'll talk about personnel. The recommended budget includes new positions or funds for additional professional services needed in the following areas: animal control, building security, parks and recreation and parks facilities, planning, public health, senior services, sheriff's office, social services, tax, and veteran services. In total, the proposed budget includes 20 new positions. It is important to note that 7 of those recommended positions will be added to our Department of Social Services. Although the number of positions requested from Social Services was more than 7, we will monitor their recruitment success and take steps to add positions through the year as their capacity to employ more is achieved. Local government retirement. The proposed budget includes an increase in the local government retirement expenditures as part of employees' benefits. This is a required increase to accommodate the state retirement rate increase from 12.14% to 12.89% for general county employees and from 13.04% to 14.04% for law enforcement officers. This change results in an increase of approximately $846,000. For general government, the budget includes funds for general government operations totaling $12,085,172, or 10.26% of the general fund budget. The functions provided for all administrative county operational costs, including governing body, administration, grants, human resources, finance, legal services, information technology, communications, tax, facilities maintenance, register of deeds, and board of elections. For public safety, the recommended budget for public safety functions is $31,877,551, or 27.07% of the general fund budget. Public safety includes the following departments: the Sheriff's Office operations, including detention center and court services, 911 emergency communications, emergency services, including fire and rescue, emergency medical services operations, medical examiner, forestry services, and animal control. The majority of the growth in public safety is attributed to the full implementation of the new EMS shift change. For economic and fiscal development, the recommended budget for economic and fiscal development functions is $4,564,632, or 3.88% of the general fund budget. This function provides for planning and inspections, cooperative extension, soil and water services, rural transportation, the Rocky Mount Wilson Airport, and Nash County Economic Development. For human services, the recommended budget for human services functions is $29,431,126, or 24.99% of the general fund budget. Human services includes Public Health Department, the Department of Social Services, Senior Services, Veteran Services, Mental Health Services, Office of Juvenile Justice Program, Home and Community Care Block Grant, and outside agency funding. For cultural and recreation, the recommended budget for cultural and recreation functions is $2,365,657, or 2.01% of the general fund budget. This function includes funding for the library, parks and recreation, parks maintenance, and the total for this function includes funding for Braswell Library, including the state library grant, and funding for our 5 municipal libraries. For education, the recommended budget for education is $25,734,592, or 23.55% of the general fund budget, excluding debt service. This includes funding of $21,376,860 for current expenses and $1,396,890 for current year capital needs for the Nash County Public School System, and $2,692,342 for current expenses and $268,500 for current year capital needs for Nash Community College. The total recommended funding for Nash County Public Schools remains constant from the current fiscal year, FY23. However, as general enrollment continues to decline, the per pupil rate increases. Additionally, Nash County has committed to approximately $3 million in capital funds to construct a new field house at Northern Nash High School. This budget holds funding steady as Nash County awaits to learn more about the financial impact of the impending demerger process. The recommended budget for the community college contains a modest 3% increase over current fiscal year. For debt service, the overall debt service for FY24 is $6,732,953 of the general fund, including debt service for Nash County Public Schools of $3,162,520, and for Nash Community College, $626,820. The debt service actually represents 5.72% of the general fund budget. Next, for capital, the recommended capital budget is has $1,096,487 for new vehicles and vehicle replacements. As noted in the Commissioner's budget work session in March, Nash County's growing fleet of vehicles needs to be a consideration moving forward to properly manage and maintain our fleet. Other necessary equipment is budgeted under capital in the amount of $1,432,925. These items include HVAC controls in the administration building, parking improvements, replacement of cardiac monitors, IT computer replacements and backup solutions, Agriculture Center generator, the TDMA Viper Network software upgrade for emergency services in the Sheriff's Office. There is one additional item under professional services for $100,000 to address the county's Unified Development Ordinance to update in accordance with the new land development plan. The total recommended budget for capital items for fiscal year '24 budget is $2,629,412, and that also represents 2.23% of the general fund budget. There are some major capital needs that are not included in the FY24 recommended general fund budget. Staff are working with Davenport Public Finance for these to be considered for financing options and future planning. Transfers out. The budget includes total transfers of $2,342,205. The transfers consist of $335,000 for the Tax Revaluation Reserve Fund and $2,700,205 from restricted sales tax for the school capital fund. And I think we've got a graph for, nope. Nope, not yet, sorry. Now we're going to talk about other funds. In addition to the general fund, the county administers several funds supported by fees and other restricted revenue sources. The enterprise fund and the fire district fund are briefly mentioned here. Other funds included in the overall proposed budget are included in the budget summary. The county's utilities and enterprise funds is the solid waste fund and the water and sewer funds operate as enterprise funds with no property tax contribution. Each fund is supported by user fees. A fee increase is recommended in these funds due to increases in the cost of doing business. The recommended fee increases are presented in detail in the fee change section of the FY24 budget workbook. For the solid waste fund program is comprised of two elements, the C&D landfill and the convenience sites. The budget is recommended at $3,731,554. A proposed tipping fee change was presented to the board and is included in this recommended budget. For the water and sewer fund, the water and sewer fund is made up of the Central Nash Water Sewer Fund and the Northern Nash Water Sewer Fund. The combined budget appropriation for the two public utility funds is recommended at $4,046,192. Proposed fee changes were presented to the board to adjust for rate increases the county will experience, primarily from the impact of the City of Rocky Mount rate increases. There is one new fee recommendation for a request to reread the meter and provide data log information. This fee will not be charged if the county is in error. These proposed fee changes are included in the recommended budget. Next are the fire districts. There are 18 fire districts in the county that have individual tax rates. The county levies a tax in these fire districts throughout the county and administers the collection and disbursement of those taxes within the fire district's funds. 4 fire districts have requested an increase. The Bailey Fire District, specifically for the Sims area, from just over 4.5 cents to 7 cents. The Castalia Fire Department is requesting an increase from 11.5 cents to 12.5 cents. The Salem Fire Department is requesting an increase from 14 cents to 15 cents. And the Silver Lake Fire District is requesting an increase from 9 cents to 11 cents. This recommended budget includes these increases as requested. Now you'll have a slide that shows you those expenditures by function, and I know the board does always like to take a look at our 3 highest funded areas, which are human services, public safety, and education. I will point out that on this slide you can see education is slightly more than what you saw in the presentation a minute ago at $27,741,797, and that does include the transfer out. That's why I have the plus transfer there. So the transfer of $2,007,205 that was transferred out of restricted sales tax is added to that. And I also will note that if we were to add their debt service into that, the debt service that was mentioned for Nash County Public Schools and the Nash Community College, the grand total for education is $31,531,137. So that actually puts that right there, right behind public safety, and then our human services that you see there. Are there any questions about that? Okay. So in conclusion, a copy of the budget has been filed with the clerk of the board. It is available for public inspection in the manager's office as well as on the county website. A notice of public hearing will be published as required. No earlier than 10 days after May 22nd, 2023, the date of this budget presentation, and no later than July 1, 2023, the Nash County Board of Commissioners shall hold a public hearing and therefore adopt a budget ordinance making appropriations, estimating revenues, and levying taxes for the FY 2023-2024 budget. County staff recommends the Commissioners hold a public hearing on June 5th, 2023. Commissioners are urged to carefully consider and study the recommended budget. If there are any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me or other county staff. On behalf of the county staff, we look forward to working with the Commissioners during the upcoming year to provide the best services possible at the most reasonable cost to the taxpayers of Nash County. And I want to just express my gratitude for all of our management team. There have been a lot of conversations, a lot of negotiations. Finance staff has worked tirelessly with me through who knows how many changes we've made. And again, thank you to you board members for your time and your feedback on this budget. Are there any questions?
Questions on the manager at this time?
Yes, I just want to repeat a statement I made last week. It says here that we're holding the public schools budget constant, no increase, waiting for the demerger. We have a whole fiscal year before that happens. And I just think we ought to do better than just holding it constant. And the thing that I said last week, I see an assault on public education across the whole southern region and the plains. And now they're putting pressure on Virginia that you better come on and follow. And if we don't support public education adequately and hold teachers and administration and the boards of education accountable to make progress and make sure these children are prepared when they graduate to either go into a job or go to a school of higher education and then pursue employment. Technology is the thing now, and they need to be prepared to use technology, because if they're not going to be able to get a job. And this is one I just think we ought to take another look at.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield, for your comments. Other comments or questions of the manager?
Mr. Chairman,
ma'am.
I would just ask that this board and the manager take another look at the outside agency funding requests. There are a few there that it's my understanding that because there has been no presentation before, that they may not be awarded what is requested or even a portion of it. And one of them has. It may have been over 5 years, but they were awarded something. One was awarded something before. And I've spoken with the manager, and I really commend her on her due diligence of this, because I spoke of my concern of that, and she did say she would reach out to those agencies and have them maybe present. But my question is, have these other agencies also presented to this board within 5 years? And I would just ask that you all look at these outside agency requests and be fair about it. And, I mean, to not give anything, it concerns me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Other thoughts, comments at this time? If none, as you see, this is a no action item, and on behalf of the board, I do wish to thank the manager as well as all the staff, and I think it probably included all the staff in putting this together, particularly the finance staff. The budget process this year was easy to follow. We all certainly had some concerns about part of it and still have some concerns about part of it, as was stated here today. And you have a few more weeks to bring forth your concerns, let the manager know, and the manager will keep the board informed, I'm sure, on any comments that come in from either of the elected officials up here today, and keep us appraised of that, and look forward to having a budget to present in a public hearing to the public, first meeting in June, which is recommended to be on June the 5th. After that process, I think one or two of the commissioners asked that we not take action at that meeting, but to take what the public brings to us, give adequate time to consider what the public has to say, because they are really who we all work for, as we know. And then to meet our deadline, we would be having a second meeting in June, at which time we must be prepared to adopt a budget, whatever the final item may be. So any other questions or comments concerning the budget at this time?
I just wanted to say that the staff has worked hard on this budget, and I'm aware of that.
Yes, sir.
You've done a good job, but I just think we ought to take a look at what we're going to fund the school system.
I'd like to comment the county manager on the presentation.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Belfield, on the school item itself, we should all understand that we are in a period of time in our school system, unfortunately, of a declining population, and actually to provide funding at the same level as was provided for a larger number each year in the previous budget year does account and make reality mean that we are providing more funding per student each year for many years because of our declining population, where it's actually not shown that way in the budget presentation, the way it's structured, but it is something that we need to keep in mind, and once we see that calculation on a per student basis, when we get to the final budget to adopt, we will actually realize that
We
gap.
ought to admit, we don't know what the decline in population for the fiscal year coming up.
That's correct.
We don't. And we ought to be in a position, if it's an increase, that we should take a look at it.
Right.
And do better than just constant.
And we all know, and you particularly, Mr. Belfield, your long service on this board, that, and each meeting we have budget amendments come before us, and if we see we have a significant increase in student
As long as we leave it so that we can do that.
Yes, sir.
A budget amendment if needed.
Sure, understand, and that's always available to this board to ask for one. But I think if we generally don't ask for them, they come to us at the appropriate time. So budget amendments is always a tool that we have in our toolbox. Other comments? If not, at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Commissioner Outlaw for the board committees and special reports.
Before we do that, just mention that, as the chairman noted, that our June 19th meeting will be dedicated to the budget and the approval of the budget, so we will not have any committee reports at June 19th meeting. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're going to have our committee reports now. We'll start with District 1, Commissioner Arrington.
Well, basically, I attended the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. We had a meeting last week, and good meeting, good discussion around juvenile prevention. And, well, we've been having a rise in juvenile crime. So with all the agencies that's involved, we are trying to deal with that the best that we can. States did attend one of the meetings, that I missed, and but otherwise, that council still doing well.
Any questions for Commissioner Arrington? Hearing none, District 2, Commissioner Belfield.
The Tar River Transit met to approve a budget request for the urban operation of that, and also including capital in that budget, and the rural operation of the transit system. One thing they want to do is expand that they can provide more services, especially in the rural areas. And that has been done, and it's due to come before the county commissioners as well as the city council. Upper Coastal Plain Council of Government, we reviewed the fiscal year budget that starts in October, and there will be a public hearing on that at our next meeting. And I believe that next meeting is June 20th at 5:30 p.m. Farmers Market, we were scheduled to have a meeting and it was canceled. And that's it for me.
Any questions for Commissioner Belfield? Hearing none, District 3, Commissioner Leggett. I'm sorry, Commissioner Cone.
Okay, Trillium met when we had our budget retreat in March. They're meeting again today when we're in another meeting. But anyway, Dave Peterson gave the report from Trillium the first of last month, which I think we are pretty update on Trillium. The Ag Advisory Board met March 28th. That was also when we went on a budget retreat, I think, so I missed that one. But anyway, as y'all know, in December, we voted to update the voluntary ag district ordinance to reflect the 1 mile buffer per, if somebody had to be notified of any changes that would 1 mile away. But that's been updated. It's been updated, I think, on our GSI maps. So that's been done, and at that meeting, they approved 16 voluntary ag district applications totaling 1,060 acres of land. They were approved, and 823 were new to the program, and 235 were re-enrolled due to having to because of a property change because of this new ordinance. So that's what they did at that meeting.
Any questions for Commissioner Cone?
Dan, does that change in the ag district require approval of this board? Do you happen to remember?
No, it was just like because the ordinance changed to a mile out, they had to just reapply
Okay.
that same property. So that's what was done.
Okay. I knew we hadn't seen it. I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing a step, but thank you.
No, we don't have to.
Good.
All right, District 4, Commissioner Leggett.
All right, the UNC Health Nash Board of Commissioners meets monthly, and you heard a full update from their CEO today on their activities and state of operations. The Natural Resources Resilience Committee has not met. However, we also heard a positive report from the Nash County Soil and Water Supervisor today on their work, and our Soil and Water Department here in the county and the Natural Resources Resilience Committee, their work and goals coincide. As Mr. Belfield noted, the most recent meeting of our Nash County Farmers Market Committee or Advisory Committee did not meet recently. Their meeting had to be canceled. But I will give a brief report from that market. They are now open 2 days a week, They're open Saturdays from 8 to 1, and also on Tuesday afternoons from 3 to 6. Since the market's opening on April 1st of this year, they've seen approximately 12,000 customers come through the doors. Also, in April of this year, over $2,500 in EBT and matching funds have been spent at the market. And our Nash County market specifically has coordinated, packed, and distributed 1,460 fresh food boxes so far this year. And those boxes go to seniors in Nash, Edgecombe, Wilson, Halifax, and Northampton counties. That's all I have.
Any questions for Commissioner Leggett? Hearing none, District 5. I have nothing significant to report from the Rural Transportation Advisory Committee or Nash Community College. On the Broadband Committee, Ms. McGee publishes updates on that frequently, and I think there was one that just went out today. Our next committee meeting is Tuesday, June the 6th. Any questions? Hearing none, District 6, Commissioner Wilkins.
Thank you. Most of mine on Gateway Technology Center, many of you in the public probably has already heard in the news. The Shaw Learning Center, the Shaw Learning Center was dedicated on April the 18th. Jennifer Baisden from ECU came off the board, and Dr. Alan Guidry at ECU is filling that spot. They're working on the financial literacy program at NC State and ECU as a collaborative, and more students are signing up than they have positions open, so that's a good thing. And again, I think I mentioned at our last meeting that officers were elected: Norris Tolson, President; Cindy Edwards, Treasurer; Keith Rogers, the City Manager for the City of Rocky Mountains, Vice President; and yours truly, Secretary. And the Nash County Economic Development Alliance, we had a meeting here that went over work in Nash, the WIN Academy at Nash Community College, and where students, high school students who may not go to college go through a 3-week program following the graduation and to get on a career path with some of the businesses here in Nash County. Some of us toured Universal Leaf in April, and that was great. And of course, we heard the press release the other day about the North Carolina Mega Site Readiness Report. And STEP, Strategic Twin County Education Partnership, they can continue to do great things. They had the employer in the foyer, which allows students who plan to enter the workforce after graduation the opportunity to explore careers at various businesses. That was a very good event that happened, and many students came. I believe it was on May 16th, so we just had it. And I did submit my resignation to the STEP board because of SB 473. Even though I did not hold a leadership position or an office, I was on that board, and I believe this board said at the beginning of SB 473, when it was placed into law by our legislatures, that rather than give even the slightest inclination of impropriety, that we would not. I did not feel comfortable advocating for any nonprofit that this board was going to contribute money to, but that does not mean, I want them to know, that does not mean I won't continue to advocate for them and for other nonprofits that I feel are doing the community a great service. I attended the Nash County Public Schools Evening of Excellence. I attended the Educator of the Year Award and the National Day of Prayer at the City of Rocky Mount. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Wilkins? Hearing none, District 7, Commissioner Davis, and then I'll turn it back over to you.
Commissioner Outlaw?
Yes, sir.
One thing I left out on my report, and I intended to make. There are grants from the state for regional. They're going to combine two regions on technology. They're saying that this is going to be especially here in eastern North Carolina, a lot of industry is most likely going to be locating here, and they are providing workshops in order for people to improve their skills in technology so that they can become employed. And they are going to start, they're going to announce when they start. They will probably start over in the fall, but there will be announcements on it so people can apply and participate.
So that information will come out to.
It will come out.
Thank you, Commissioner Belfield. Chairman Davis. All right, committees I serve on, first is the TDA, Tourism Development Authority. We did have our meeting on May the 9th at 2 o'clock here in this room. It is our meeting for the year to formalize our budget moving forward, as well as have presenters to present to us to request funds. We had a very large group that requested funds. The meeting went very smooth, quite frankly. We had a projected revenue from our finance department of $1,255,000 that we were dealing with. Our approved funding was for $1,232,306. So you can readily see that we found a place to spend just about all the funds that we were projected to bring in, but yet did not spend more funds than what we had. We had a total of 23 requests from agencies. Each one of them made a presentation that afternoon. Out of those 23, there were 20 that were approved. Biggest majority of them were approved in the amount they asked for. A few of them did have some reductions in them, but not that much. And again, I would tell you that totaled up to be all total of $1,232,306. The other report that I have is from the Rocky Mount Metropolitan Planning Organization. That is the MPO who handles the planning for highway projects in our area. And we had our meeting last on May the 15th, which was just about a week ago. In fact, probably exactly a week ago, in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. During that meeting, we had a draft project list that the board started working on as far as looking at the project list we have and making any additions or any subtractions to that. The action items that we had were 2 resolutions supporting the North Carolina Department of Transportation's target for performance measures. What it really boils down to is we try to rate our safety. We have things that we do to try to rate safety each year on our highways, and particularly our streets located within municipalities in the county, and assign targets to improve those. The other thing that we did, we approved the STIP amendments, and what that boils down to is any projects that the DOT wanted to change that was on our adopted list, or any corrections or any additions they wanted to make to it, have to be approved by the local MPOs, and that took place as well. We got an update on all of our STIP projects, which means the major projects that we have going on in Nash County. You know, there are actually 4 of those, most of it in the area between Little Leesonburg and town limits of Nashville and Old Carriage Road. Those projects are moving along pretty well, but if you go through there, you know, there's a lot of work left to be done. And the new project that has started was the roundabout at the ramp off of 64 over Old Bimini Road. It's about 18% complete. And if you go through there, you'll see quite a bit of construction. I advise all drivers to be safe and be conscious of the amount of work. A lot of that work is real close to the roadways, and a lot of barrels out there. And if you go through there, during the nighttime, and with it raining, it is somewhat difficult to negotiate yourself through there, so I would just be very cautious. Update on all the projects is the Sunset Avenue I-95 interchange, Eastern Avenue widening, which is a $60.5 million project, is now 68% complete. The interchange improvements on Halifax, which is the interchange itself, which was a $23 million project. That's the interchange off an I-95 onto Eastern Avenue, is now 56.86% complete. And then the latest one that started in that general quadrant is the Old Carriage Road widening, which of course goes in front of Nash Community College. That is a $20 million project, and it is currently 26.08% complete. So still quite a bit of construction to go on out there. It will continue on into next year, almost through next year, and actually the Old Carriage actually is projected to finish up in April of 2025. Now, the project over on Bienvenue Road is 16% complete, and it is projected to be finished prior to the end of this coming year. So a lot going on in our MPO. We have been very blessed to get a lot of DOT funding in our area over the last 3 or 4 years, and you see a lot of improvement, a lot of pain for the motoring public during this time. But if we pay attention to the fact that we are in construction sites, hopefully we'll finish all these projects up without any major accidents and anyone getting hurt. I think we do know we've had one death already on the Eastern Avenue as it relates to a bridge employee and a problem out there with a crane. But with that said, Commissioner Wilkins has already reported on the alliance in full detail. We were due to meet this week for our next meeting. That meeting has been moved because of the number of our members that were not going to be available to attend this week, so we're actually just going to wait and do our next meeting, which would be in July. So we'll have a report after that. I do want to say that each commissioner got to appoint a member, as we all know. The member that I chose to appoint, which was a neighbor of mine, due to some additional obligations in his family and with his parents, and needed to spend more time outside of our service area, chose not to continue that, and I have selected a new member. And after looking at everything and talking to staff, I decided to appoint Javaris Walker, who is a member of the Rocky Mount City Council, who lives in my ward, to fill that seat. And my intent there is, after discussing it with Andy and Susan, was it would hopefully give us another connect between the two organizations that are doing economic development in this area of region of Nash, Edgecombe, and the city of Rocky Mount. So he will be joining us at our next meeting. And that's my report. Any questions on my report?
What role does the city play in street and highway construction that passes through the city?
Mr. Belfield, in the city of Rocky Mount, there are 2 types of streets. There are city-maintained streets, and then, of course, there are DOT-maintained streets. The work that
I'm aware of that, but I
Okay.
was thinking about decisions on any new construction.
Okay. The work that the MPO does is strictly DOT-related streets. The streets for the city of Rocky Mount, they, of course, maintain, plan, and decide what they'll do with those at all times. So, does that answer your question? We don't have anything to do with this, the MPO doesn't have anything to do with the city streets located within Rocky Mount that they maintain themselves. It's only DOT.
Highways that pass through the city?
Yes, sir.
Do they have input?
The MPO has an input on what kind of improvements will be done to all of those streets within the MPO, and it's more than just the city of Rocky Mount that are state maintained or either federal highways. Yes, sir. It includes, I'd have to actually get you a map, which I'll be glad to show you what MPO consists of. But we have members on there from the town of Sharpsburg, town of Nashville, 3 from Rocky Mount, 1 from Nash County, myself, and then 1 from Edgecombe County, a commissioner over there, is who makes up that board. As well as the DOT, Mr. Bitchell also serves on that board, DOT representative for our area.
Okay.
No more questions. I'll ask the manager if she has anything else for staff for this
No.
meeting.
No, sir.
Okay. Any commissioners have any other closing comment?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know, since the last time we met, became aware that our state senator has introduced the bill 169, which is about the satellite annexation of city of Rocky Mount absorbing land that's not in their city limits. Anyway, my position is that I didn't see that as our #1 priority to the legislature, and I'm really not in support of that legislation. And I just need my constituents to know that I'm not in support of that legislation.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I want to piggyback off that myself. And again, when we did the legislative agenda, when it was submitted, it stated, support changes in legislation for a non-contiguous annexation by a municipality, giving the affected county a voice in the process, especially where it could lead to rezoning the property inconsistent with the county's land development plan.
Correct.
I have no issue with that, but SB 169 was certainly not the intent in my mind when our legislative goals were given to Nash County's legislatures. We did not prioritize those goals. Each one of us submitted our goals to, and all of us went over the goals. We never said, this is #1, this is #2, this is #3. And for Senator Barnes to say that that was our #1 priority, even though it was listed as #1, another one could have been listed as #1. You don't take that assumption. But I do not recall voting for that one to be #1. I never saw or was informed of what she was putting forward, when she was putting it forward, or even the wording of SB 169. And so I want the public to know, the citizens to know that I do not support it as it is written right now. No, I don't support non-contiguous annexation. And on the commercial zoning of that area, I don't support that. But the city of Rocky Mount, the owners did their due diligence. The city of Rocky Mount had their public hearing, went about it the right way, and they ruled that they would annex that property. And now to go and say municipalities have to come to this board for approval, I'm just going to say they are not children and we are not their parents. And so I am in disagreement with 169 as it is written. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments before I respond to those 2 comments?
Well, I don't agree with it. And also the school board is drawing those lines out, that this board of commissioners would redistrict every 10 years, and then the school board has to comply with the way we redistrict. And I just think we're encroaching on their right and authority to create their own districts. And I'm highly disappointed. I don't know, I've been on this board going on 25 years, and I've never seen nothing like this before.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
And I think it's a shame that we want to do that.
All right. To address 169, I will comment on Ms. Wilkers's concerns first. You are indeed right. We had on our legislative goals, our top 5 goals. I actually generally do, and I felt like I did this time, made a comment that they were in no order for the top 5. They are our top 5 that this board did have full awareness of. I can't say exactly what Senator Barnes said because I don't know. I know in my discussion with it, I'm using, it is the number 1 goal on our top 5 goals. Now, whether there's been a misinterpretation of that language, I can't speak for her. They were not prioritized, and you're exactly right on that. I just will tell you that since, and I'm going to say this to defend Senator Barnes just a little bit, she had that as a challenge for her to try to find a way to help us moving forward on this particular item, should it happen again. Of course, the annexation of the Westmont area has already happened. Rezoning has not happened. It's actually on their agenda again today. But moving forward, we asked for some help, and she was attempting to do that. We all realize when you get near the end of a session, things get mighty hectic in Raleigh, in the Senate as well as the House, and your meeting deadlines, crossover has already passed. She saw the opportunity of a local bill from Davidson County that addressed some of the same issues. So she asked that Nash County be put on as an additional county on that local bill. It needs a tremendous amount of work, and we all agree with that, if indeed it stays there, because that bill does not fit the situation in Davidson County. In Davidson County, it fits Nash. We all know that's how bills are processed. You get tagged on to something, and then you go to work on it. I will say that I met Friday at lunch in Mayor Robertson's office at his request, and Senator Barnes, as well as our representative Chester, was in that meeting. We had about an hour-and-a-half meeting. It was productive. We all recognized that bill, or the amendments to that bill, needed additional work, and we, Lisa and Representative Chester are working on those. And I have an additional meeting tomorrow afternoon with the mayor. I think it's at 2 o'clock. He's coming to my office, and we're looking at it some more. What we're attempting to do is find some common ground that maybe Nash County and Rocky Mount can agree on. Of course, the other side effect of that, which some of you may have heard, as it was initially started, and I do want to emphasize started because that's all it was, it affected all of our towns in Nash County. That was no intent, quite frankly, and quite a few of those had quite a number of questions as well. We have let those towns, or are letting those towns one at a time. Commissioner Outlaw handled the town of Nashville this morning at a meeting they had to make sure they understood that it was a work in progress, and certainly nothing that was concrete, but also to make sure they all understood the issue that we were trying to address as a board. So I hope you'll just continue to monitor that bill, see where it ends up and what it looks like if anything happens to it at this General Assembly that we are in, the time we are in now, or whenever it should show back up again. But still, I think most of us feel that what happened in Westmont probably should not have happened, the rezoning part of it, nothing to do with annexation. But the county should have some involvement, or at least be involved somehow, if you're going to skip an area, come out and do a satellite annexation in a area that you currently do not have in your boundary, and then make a significant change in zoning in that area that is in direct conflict with our own land development code. That's the issue at hand. It was dangerous precedent that was set at that time, but at the same time, Rocky Mount has their side. We fully understand that, and I hope all of our board fully understands that the relationship between Nash County as well as the city of Rocky Mount and any other incorporated area in Nash County, it must be protected. Rocky Mount's probably the most important one. They're all important. But Rocky Mount holds utilities in water and sewer, gas, as well as electricity in some of our areas. They certainly hold quite a bit of water and sewer and gas in some of our areas as well. So if we're going to be successful in many things, economic development being the prime one that's in my mind today, we must find ways to work through these issues like this, and that's currently what has been done and what we're working on. I'll be glad to answer any questions about that, but it is just a work in progress to try to find a solution. And that bill, as was written, that local bill, is not the answer to our problem without quite a bit of work.
Well, the way...
I would...
have Mr. Arrington first. I think
Yeah.
he started first.
Yeah. I would hope that in the future that we can develop a better relationship with the city of Rocky Mount and all our towns, but mainly the city of Rocky Mount when it comes to issues of economic development or zoning, that we try not to go to our state legislatures to solve our problems, that we could solve our problems here amongst ourselves, our leadership, and that we will come up with the best solution that will hopefully be a solution that all our citizens can live with. But to run to Raleigh every time we have a problem that we need to solve, it needs to be done among our leadership. And we want, I as a commissioner want to continue to see Rocky Mount grow, not just Nashville, not just Middlesex. I want Whitaker's to grow. I want all those areas to grow. And I don't want to be a hindrance to that growth. So I hope that we'll try to start being more cooperative with all our cities and towns, our leadership, so that we can understand the direction that they are trying to go or why they are trying to go in a certain direction. So let's try to improve that relationship. That's one thing that I would like for us all to do.
Point well taken, sir. And I do want to assure you and the rest of the board that there were quite a few meetings held concerning this annexation, as well as the rezoning prior and up to the time that the annexation was approved. And I won't tell you how many meetings Commissioner Outlaw can provide you with a very good dialogue of those meetings if you would like to see that. And I think it would be pertinent that you should see that. So Commissioner Outlaw, if you would provide the board with what we went over at the town of Nashville this morning, that would be great.
Well, I guess sometime, well, the rest of the board, myself included, is not briefed on those discussions. So we are left in the, out of the loop, and we need to be part of the loop.
I would, I understood what you said, but this was a District 5 issue. Therefore, Commissioner Outlaw handled it pretty much on his own, which you would do in your District 1 as well. And everything you do in your district is not always brought before the whole board, but I do understand your comment and it's well taken. Mr. Belfield.
Oh, I was going to say that any negotiations, this board ought to know about it. And I have no problem with the two, the city of Rocky Mount and Nash County working together on zoning and how we can complement each other. I think would be good. But one going off, and the comments that I have heard from the mayor and one of the members of the city council that saying Nash County just out here a power grabber. And that's not good either way. And I believe that we can work together. And we are all growing and accomplish things here for the citizens of Nash County, as well as the city of Rocky Mount and the other municipalities. But if I understand this bill, it's going to affect all the municipalities in Nash County, that they cannot annex any property without first coming before this board and get the Nash County Board approval. And I think that's wrong. I think we can work out where the two parties can get together and discuss what it is you want and this and that. What are the consequences, good or bad? And all parties would be happy. But I don't want to see us get like that and mess up there in Washington. It's broken. And it needs to be, we don't need a Congress. We need to dissolve and have a convention, just like we do with the Constitution, and dissolve Congress because they can't work together, two parties trying to see which one can get the advantage over the other. And it looks like this is what we're trying to do here. And I want to see us work together.
Mr. Belfield?
And I've seen some good areas, and especially in Ohio with Columbus County, which is the capital. There's 17 counties surrounding it, working fine together, getting things done, every county prospering, because they make sure that each one of those counties, but in North Carolina, the Research Triangle up there in Orange County pulled out because they thought they weren't getting anything done being a member of it, and they got out. And we don't want that kind of stuff to happen here.
Well, since we are in a public venue, I do want to correct one thing you said. The bill didn't have anything to do with contiguous annexation. It only addressed satellite annexations. But I can only say again that the bill requires amendments as presented, requires a lot of work, and that's what's been done. In my meeting on Friday with the mayor, he used a term you just used, that it appeared like a power grab by the county, some portion of the county. I will assure you it's not that at all. It was actually trying to prevent a power grab in the other direction from happening in the future in rezoning land that's already controlled by our land development code. So that terminology does not fit what's going on here at all. But since we're in a public venue, I do want to keep the facts straight because they get confused sometimes as they have on this particular thing. Yeah. But it was a work in progress, and everybody at hand knows that it takes a lot of work to put a bill together. Yeah. And at the present time, it has passed one committee in the Senate. It is sitting on hold for work to be done, and those people that are interested in it to provide additional changes to it that need to be done before it goes to two more committees, like all of them have to do at least in the Senate, at which time it possibly may move to the House. They have asked us to try to find that common ground that we can agree on, which is what's always done.
Yeah, and that's all I'm asking, that we work together.
Sure. Well, we have no choice. We should and we want to, and I hope we can.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just make
Absolutely,
brief
sir.
comments?
Sure.
If you recall back, probably the end of November, early December last year, this is a matter that I've been working on since May of last year. I've got a well-documented timeline of events that covers all of the discussions that have been conducted with the mayor of the city of Rocky Mount and council members. We have worked diligently to try to come to some understanding. We have requested repeatedly, due to the inconsistency and incompatibility of this rezoning, which leads to subsequent annexation, which leads to subsequent rezoning, we have repeatedly asked them to consider denial. We have had over 50 residents in the surrounding area attend many council meetings. We have provided a petition to the city of Rocky Mount with 130 signatures. We have never once received any acknowledgement of the information provided. That property was annexed, that has already been annexed. They are acting today on the rezoning, and I'm comfortable that they will rezone it. They're taking an area that has been historically residential since the inception of our land development plan. They're taking a 70-acre tract in the middle of that residential area and converting it basically to a commercial area. They're doing that, and the annexation motion that they passed said, and I want you to hear this closely, said they will annex that property, but they have an agreement with the requester that they will not provide sewer or waste removal services. So let that sink in just a minute. So in August, when this popped up on the Rocky Mount Council agenda, there was no notification to the county, to the residents. I just happened to be perusing through agendas and happened to notice it and dug into it and found out what it was. But that simply means that a municipality, the city of Rocky Mount, can go out and at request of any individual or any group, and they can petition to annex that property without the provision for services. So that could happen to anybody. It could happen in your district. It's not right. The people do not want it to happen. It's already happened, so there's nothing can be done to change that. What we're doing now is we're trying to protect future with Nash County. I've got a documented timeline that clearly indicates that we have repeatedly met with the city of Rocky Mount. And I don't know, Mr. Belfield, who you've talked to or who you've heard from or what you've read in the papers or whatnot, but I can tell you there's been no power play. There's been no by night trying to do things in the dark. It's been very open and transparent with the city of Rocky Mount, and that's well documented, and I will provide you with that documentation. Now, some may say that it's not, but it is well documented that it was handled in a manner that is appropriate. And that's in District 5. If you want, this board wants me to make you aware of every situation in District 5, then I'd be more than happy to do that. But I did, if you recall, give you a 3-page letter from the community residents the end of November, early December last year. So this is not a new issue. The only thing new about this issue is Senate Bill 169, and we told the people that we talked to in the city, if you do not consider denial of this property, we will seek other recourse. We will seek other recourse, and that's exactly what we have done. We have asked for some consideration to deal with satellite annexation in the future. It has nothing to do with contiguous annexation. It's satellite annexation totally. And if we as a board, the majority, are okay with a municipality just reaching out and scooping up land that's inconsistent and doing things with it that are inconsistent and incompatible with our land development plan, where we have invested time, effort, and money since 2006, then I'll be in the minority on that, because I don't think that's something we want to be doing. But anyway, Mr. Chairman, I will provide that information, and then hopefully it'll be better understood, and maybe we can have further discussion on it.
I would appreciate that, because it's shame on them.
I'm not trying to, Mr. Belfield,
no.
wait a minute, Mr. Belfield.
If we
I'm
could,
not trying to shame anybody, Mr. Belfield.
No, I am.
I'm not,
Well,
and I don't want you to shame anybody. I'm just saying that,
I'm going to ask for the floor back if I could. We are in a public venue, and I'm, as chairman, just going to ask that let's maybe silence this conversation sooner than later. I can't silence any of you, but if we say too much, it's going to restrict what compromise that we can work towards, and I've got another meeting tomorrow, and we just need to wait and see what a final product looks like.
Mr. Chairman,
But let me finish.
based on what he has
Let me
said
finish,
here, the
Mr. Belfield.
communication broke down.
Well, let
And
me
that's
finish.
where we need to work to improve. And I'll say it again, shame on them if they did what they did after what Commissioner
Mr.
Outlaw
Belfield, I'm gonna
described,
ask you
then-
to stop talking.
Then they were
if you
wrong.
would. Well, that's what we're here, that's not what we're here for today, to determine who's wrong. We got an opportunity to work on something, and that's the way we need to go about it. We don't need to be shaming anyone.
That's what I want.
I do.
The two
Okay.
working together.
Well, if we say less, it'll be a lot easier on me to help get this thing to
Yeah.
a
If I
point.
could make just one final comment, Mr. Chairman.
I don't need to say, show favoritism. I've asked us all to cease it. Is it something to do with this?
If there's anything going on in District 5 that you would like information on, and, I would just take it as a courtesy if you would give me a call or meet with me or talk with me, because a lot of what's been said in here today, if we'd have had a discussion, if you'd have just reached out to me, then we probably could have cleared this up before we got into this session, but that's just me.
Well, I think we all realize, Commissioner Outlaw, that we can't keep up with everything goes on in everybody's district. And it's unfortunate this has got to the point where it's at. And it's very unfortunate that it all happened so quickly. I think some people think that I had a lot to do with that bill. I saw that bill at the same time everybody else did. Only thing we did is ask for some help in future situations like this. But certainly, we're gonna put our best foot forward and try to work it out. And we're gonna assure all of our small towns that it doesn't include them. And if we do anything with a bill, we'll make sure it doesn't include any of the small towns in the county. If we have to do that by population minimum or whatever, we'll come up with a way to take care of that, because we don't have any issues with any small towns as it relates to their ETJs, their rezoning, and I think relationship is good enough that we would all sit down and work it out anyway, and that's what we got to do with Rocky Mount as well. All right, if there is no other comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, which I wished I had done a few minutes ago, but I did not. So is there a motion to
So moved.
adjourn this meeting?
I'll second.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Okay, Commissioner Outlaw made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a light sign. We stand adjourned. Thank you.